Do you ever struggle with messy, messy emotions? Sometimes I refer to messy emotions as they're parasitic. They're sucking the life out of you. You know, in our world right now, life is happening in all kinds of ways. And if we don't have capacity, we sometimes go down rabbit holes and we stumble. And if we're exhausted, and if our body isn't draining and emptying the trash, and if our food choices aren't necessarily the best, and our job is stressful and people are stressful, inevitably, our emotions take a detour down roads you never intended to go. I certainly know that because I went through depression. I went through suicide attempts, and I was dealing with all of that. And fortunately, someone introduced me to a nutritionist, and that changed the trajectory of my entire life. It took me out of being a troubleshooter in the computer services industry into what I've been doing for over 30 years. Not only improving my health, but working with thousands of people from around the world do the exact same thing. So, what is it that causes all these emotions to be a problem? Well, when life happens, truly, when life happens, situations change that we have no control over. If we don't have some reserve capacity, first of all, in energy, which I've talked about in other videos, if our body's not cleansing, which I've talked about, and if we don't know how to increase capacity, if we don't know how to pause and really evaluate a situation, we take some really poor choices in interpreting it, and it causes us to just go down the rabbit hole. And then those emotions impact our thinking impacts our behavior, our behavior will impact our choices and create consequences that we never wanted to create. We just didn't know how to interrupt those messy, parasitic emotions. So, what are some of these things that impact our emotions? You know, when you're exhausted, you're not getting enough sleep, you don't sleep well, you're running on adrenaline energy instead of cellular energy, you're running on fumes. You don't make wise choices on fumes. If you've had trauma, maybe you've had surgeries, you've lost a job, you've had people die in your life. There's been more death in the last 3 or 4 years than in any given time in my life. That's trauma. Maybe your blood sugar is all over the place, and as a result, you make poor food choices because you're really just trying to get through the day. Maybe you've had a head injury. Maybe you've had a car crash. Maybe someone hit you in the car. Maybe you've had concussions over the years and never rehabbed them or knew how to rehab them. Maybe there's been broken bones, accidents, injuries. Maybe there's a lot of eye fatigue because you're on Zoom calls and you're on computer screens and you're on technology all the way into the evening. All of those things are draining your battery so that your capacity to have healthy emotions, itty bitty, itty bitty. Now I want to talk about what I think sets the stage for what I've called messy parasitic emotions. These are things that you can change. I'm going to give you a list of those emotions, and then I'm going to share with you a little exercise you can do to begin to see how unknowingly you're feeding these parasitic, messy emotions instead of turning them into one of the biggest revelations of your life. This is really important. Now, you may not struggle with each one of these, but if you've got a pencil or a pen or you're writing on your phone or your tablet, make a note of the one that you know is your issue. The first one is you get offended. I don't know that I've ever lived in a time where people are more easily offended by other people. Are you one of those people that's easily offended? What about perceived rights? Do you think you have the right for such and such to happen? Do you have a right for somebody to take care of you? Do you perceive that you have a right for people to communicate when you need to have it done? Do you have a perceived right that at your age such and such should have already happened? Perceived rights is a really, really big one. It sets the stage for a lot of anger and frustration. What about unforgiveness? I'm not going to forgive them. Well, unforgiveness harbors itself in our liver, and it can create a lot of different health issues. You know, when you forgive someone, it doesn't mean you like or condone what they did. It just means you're no longer going to be attached to it. You're not going to let it impact you. And it doesn't mean you have to trust them. It doesn't even mean you have to create a relationship with them. It's just saying, I'm going to choose to forgive. Anger, shame for things that have been done or things that you have done, maybe anxiety. Those are emotions that just suck the life out of you. They impact health issues. They impact how our brain functions. They're not your friend. And you may think you have a right to them, but when you get to that place where you live there, it's taking you out day by day. So when life happens, which it does to all of us, there are things that we can't control. When that happens, we get to make a choice. So there's a really good book out, one that I like a lot. It's the book Greatest Man Who Ever Lived by Stephen K. Scott. And on pages 208 to 209, he gives this little exercise that you can do. And I'm going to show you how I did it in my life. Identify a season of life or something that happens. It may have been a disappointment. It may have been a loss. It may have been a perceived failure. Something definitive happened. And then instead of dwelling on what happened, look at what came out of that season. And how can you apply that in your current situation? So I'm going to take you through a little bit of my story so you can begin to see how you could apply it if you choose to. When my health fell apart in my 30s, after a very difficult pregnancy, and my hormones were all over the place, and the doctors didn't know what to do with me, and nobody at church knew what to deal with in this depressed woman. Stay away from her, she might be contagious. It led to 2 suicide attempts. Fortunately, somebody introduced me to a nutritionist. I did exactly what he said to do, and 90 days later, I was a different person. So it was a very difficult season because I'd gone through health issues. We'd lost a home, we lost our car, we lost a business. There was lots of loss. So the suicide attempts were not that I didn't want to live. I didn't want to live like that, and I didn't know what else to do. So my health reflected that crash. But God wasn't finished with me yet, so he gave me a resource, and I listened to the resource, and that changed the trajectory of my life and every story I can share since then. So then I had a great client base, and I was working with clients from around the world in our clinic, writing books every year on media. And then my energy crashed again because I was trying to take care of everybody, to try and be their source. And so I had another crash. And I retired at 50, that I was never going to work with clients again. It was just too hard and exhausting. But out of that, I realized I'm never the source of your health. God's your source. I am a resource for him to flow through to touch your life. And when I learned that simple little piece, and to that, he said, and Cheryl, my way is easy. So I started studying easy, and I thought within the next year I understood easy. Well, 20 years later, I didn't have a clue. However, I started. So then we started working with a company, and we were introduced to some nutrients that were extraordinarily powerful. And then the company ethics just fell apart. The company fell apart. How could they do that? They had such a great product, and we were both so frustrated and angry. But out of that, we were introduced to some other technology to really go after the issues of excess weight. Everyone in our family lost weight. I started doing what I hadn't done in my entire life. Exercise regularly, from climbing Pikes Peak to kickboxing to kettlebells to anything. Pilates became a favorite. We created a gym in our home. Something amazing came out of the previous loss. And then after that, I moved into coaching, and that was great. And then one day, it just ended. And it was like, well, how did that happen? I was doing a really good job. But the person in charge of that said, no, I want to go do this. So something ended. And it happened at the very same time that I was in a car accident, and I felt defeated. I'm so thankful that God's given me resilience in these older years, because in resilience, I was able to move forward. And out of that came everything that we're doing on online education. Everything from our easy program to specific programs, that all came out of letting go of the consulting to move into working with people around the world. Well, at any one of these junctures, they were all pretty significant. I could have gone down the rabbit hole, or I could do what I did. Was how else can I look at it? Lord, how do you want me to take what happened here and position myself for this new season? And every time I let him show me, it was amazing how that changed my life. You see, we get to choose what we do when we go through tough times. Nobody can take that choice away. We can let it go, but we always have a choice. And pretty regularly, Forrest says, you're pretty positive. I have clients that say, you have an amazing outlook on life. I wasn't born that way. I was the opposite, and I've come through trial after trial after trial when life happened, and I can tell you, I've grown through each one of those to become a better and better person, and you can do the same thing. So what are some of the things you can do? You can go through this story and you can begin to see what came out of it. You can have mentors with books like Stephen Scott and Greatest Man Who Ever Lived. And there are some things you can do physically that give you more capacity to handle when life happens. One of the things I like a lot are minerals, because when you're going through stress, your body is burning through minerals. We found one recently called CT Minerals that's absolutely amazing. Supplements can be evaluated on their conductivity, and most come in at 400 to 900. Let's even say 1,000. CT Minerals' conductivity score for assimilation is 17,000. So if you're going through stress, know that you're burning through minerals. CT Minerals is a home run hit. And also, if you're going through what life hits you with, your body is aging and your cells are aging, and it needs more of that master antioxidant called glutathione. Without a doubt, swish. You swish it in the mouth. It provides the fastest delivery to get that glutathione, curcumin, antioxidant to the cells 70 to 90 seconds at the most affordable price we've ever found. So those help you to increase your capacity to go through when life happens. Then make sure you're getting sleep. Make sure that you're appreciating what little things you do have. Let that become an exercise you do regularly. Get up and move. Go for a walk. Stand up. And then if you're saying, I just need someone to walk through this process with me, I don't want to do it by myself, then join us in Easy. It's an amazing community of like-minded people who want to create the best health possible in a world that's rapidly changing with life happened situations. Join us in Easy. It's our weekly mentoring program, a wealth of information that you can look at when you want to. You can be on live, you can be on the recorded. It's a great resource to help you take baby steps. Stay out of overwhelm, stay out of justifying, just baby steps forward. So how do you get started? Go to our website, lifestyleforhealth.com. Let's kick those messy, parasitic emotions out of your life and enjoy the life you've been given, because you're learning how to go through it one baby step at a time.